Hello everyone, welcome to today's news starter. Let's begin with a prelims practice question. Take a look at this question. A very simple factual question, which is about current affairs, which tests your daily day-to-day awareness. Such questions used to appear a lot 2-3 years ago. Recently, they have reduced the quantity of such questions, but because these kind of questions used to be asked earlier, because it is there in the PYQs, we need to know about these things also. So it is very simple whenever you are reading any newspaper or whenever you are getting any particular term which you do not know, immediately try to Google it out and then you will be in a position to answer such questions. Large home appliances such as stoves, refrigerators, freezers, washing machines, etc., which are large consumer durables for the households, is called by the term white goods. The reason is very simple. Earlier, in the beginning stage of industrialization, in the 21st century, when these kind of products were coming into the market in a greater quantity, they were all made in white color. And that's why they used to call it as white goods. Very simple question, very factual question. But you need to know. What is marine heat wave? Heat wave, we have discussed about heat wave in several classes, in several sessions. So I hope you already are aware of the term heat wave. When temperature crosses a particular temperature, if the overall temperature of the plain area is above 45 degrees Celsius, 47 degrees Celsius, we classify them as heat waves. So you should study about heat waves. Here we will be discussing about marine heat wave. So we generally think that heat wave is a land-based phenomenon, which is not true. It happens in the marine ecosystem also. A period of unusually warm ocean temperature that can last not for 1 or 2 days, but for weeks, sometimes even for months. Recently, scientists have told that marine heat waves in future will extend for several months, 4 months, 5 months. They have been telling that it can even reach to 220 to 250 days. So this particular point, look at this particular point, marine heat waves are expected to increase tenfold, is what the Indian Meteorological Research, Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology is telling, that it is going to reach tenfold. Currently, every year, 20 days, there is existing heat wave in the Indian Ocean. In future, it will reach to 220, 250 days per year. So this is the general understanding. So why are we discussing about marine heat wave? Because Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology has come up with a research in which it has told, based on the data from 1950 till 2020, they have told that the temperature of Indian Ocean has increased by 1.2 degrees Celsius. And the climate models are expecting it to reach 1.7 degrees Celsius to 3.8 degrees Celsius by 2000. By the end of this century, it will reach to 3.8 degrees Celsius. Already 1.2 degrees Celsius increase has happened. Now, marine ecosystem is similar to land ecosystem where too many flora, fauna is existing. Apart from that, our entire monsoon system is dependent on our Indian Ocean. So change in temperature of Indian Ocean will change everything. This is why climate change has to be controlled. So what is the major phenomenon? Whenever the temperature of the ocean increases, the water will expand. When temperature increases, molecules will move away from each other. So the water will expand. When water is expanding, what will happen is the water will come into the land surface. So seawater intrusion into land surface will happen. This will result in salinity of the land surface. This will affect our agriculture. Most of our agriculture are in delta region. It will affect our agriculture. Apart from this, when temperature is extremely high, extreme amount of cyclone events happen, devastation happens, disasters happen. So these are all the major problems. Apart from that, certain other problems are there, coral bleaching. If sea surface temperature increases, corals will get bleached out. Sea grass will be completely distracted. Loss of kelp forest. What is kelp forest? Kelps are algae which occupy the bottom region of the ocean, not the bottommost, but a shallow bottom region. So too many algae will be there. Because of this, too many insects and too many fishes will also be there. It will create its own ecosystem like a forest. So that's why we call them as kelp forest. Though this will also be affected. Apart from that, our fisheries will also get affected. Clinical Establishments Registration and Regulation Act. Clinical Establishment Registration and Regulation Act was passed in 2010. So recently, what happened is Supreme Court, there was a PIL filed in Supreme Court in which the Supreme Court observed that in private institutions, in private hospitals, the cost of treatment has become very high. So the Supreme Court told the central government to ensure that the cost is according to the Clinical Establishment Act. So according to Clinical Establishment 2010 Act, the central government will tell how to give treatment for a particular disease, how much money can be accrued as fee from the patients for particular disease, for particular treatment. But the private institutions are not following it. This is the problem. So what is the major provision? What are the major provisions of Clinical Establishments Act? Clinical Establishments Act makes it mandatory. It is mandatory for registration. What kind of hospitals will have to get registered? Any clinical establishment should get registered. Any diagnostic center should also get registered, and single doctor units should also get registered. So this is mentioned in Clinical Establishment Registration and Regulation Act 2010. Clinical establishments shall charge a rate for each type of procedure and service within the rates determined by central government. So for each and every procedure, for each and every process, the central government will provide some treatment guidelines, which is mentioned here. Central government will provide some treatment guideline. Apart from that, the central government will consult the state government and tell how much fee can be asked by the hospitals to the patients. So these things should be followed. This is mentioned in the law itself, in Clinical Establishment Registration and Regulation Act. Apart from this, there will be a National Council for Clinical Establishment. A national council will be there, which is responsible for setting up all the standards. So these are all the simple, important provisions mentioned in Clinical Establishment Registration and Regulation Act 2010. Very important for mains examination, noted down. Avian influenza has been in news in Kerala. There is a widespread of avian influenza. Apart from that, every time whenever summer happens, avian influenza will start spreading in India, especially certain states such as Kerala. So what is the reason? Very simple. In the poultry units, the chickens are not managed in a very good environment. Very less space is there, and tropical climatic condition, extreme amount of heat, more humidity, very easily the virus will spread. So for examination perspective, we need to know certain simple basic data only. It is spread by a highly pathogenic virus. So avian influenza is a viral disease. It originated in China and it has several types. Influenza A is there, influenza B is also there. It is a certain disease which doesn't spread only to chickens. It spread to all kind of birds. So it started with chicken. It used to spread even to other birds. It used to spread to other mammals also, such as sea lion, dolphin, etc. There has been huge amount of death in Chile and Peru because of this. Apart from this, foxes, puma, bears have also been infected. So anyone can get infected. Will it affect humans is the major question. Humans have contracted earlier and have died also, but the World Health Organization has clearly told that the the scope of humans to get affected and becoming a pandemic is extremely less. There is no way it can become a pandemic or anything, and there is no way it can affect humans to a greater extent also. So these are all the things you need to know. From mains examination point of view, a very, very important point. We talk about taxation all the time. Taxation is also a topic in your GS3. So in taxation, income tax in the recent times, in 2020, it has been found that income tax is around 28% of gross tax collection. Income tax is 28% of gross tax collection. So when we talk about taxation, we talk about two kind of tax. One is direct, second one indirect. Direct tax is directly collected from people such as corporate tax, income tax, etc. Indirect tax is on the products we purchase. For any time you go to a market, you can see GST applicable on all the products. So that is indirect tax. Indirect tax is paid by each and every person of the country. So this is the reason we should reduce indirect tax. We should increase our income tax, that is direct tax. But the problem is, it has been found that the share of direct tax has been decreasing while indirect tax has been increasing, which is a big concern in India. From 1980s, the share of indirect tax had been falling steadily since 1980s, but in the past one decade it has increased. So this is a concern which we should take care of. It has increased in the recent times. On the other hand, direct tax, which has been increasing earlier, has come to a downturn. So this has to be considered. Paradox of saving for economy for prelims examination, this is very important. Generally we think that when people save more money, it is good for the economy because savings of the entire government, entire country will increase. But it is a paradox. The economist, it was found by John Maynard Keynes, who is a very famous economist of Britain. So he told that when people are saving more, that means they are not spending more. Only when people are ready to spend more, they will purchase more items from the market. So this provides some impetus for the capitalist to produce more product. So when people are just saving and not investing or not spending, that means there is no reason for a capitalist to come and start a company to produce more. So it reduces the impetus in the economy. So this is a paradox, but it is not a completely agreed concept too. In several oppositions are there, several economists tell that it is not true. When people save more at some point, they will invest also. So these things will always be there, arguments and positives and negatives. But then from examination point of view, we need to know what exactly is the paradox. That's all for today. All the best. Study well. Let's meet tomorrow.